Hi.
And welcome to the Espace Tricot podcast.
I'm Stephanie.
I'm Naomi.
And we are from a yarn store in Montreal, Quebec. And this is our podcast.
We're back for sweater weather. It's our first episode of the autumn season. It may not technically be autumn yet, but September is autumn.
Although, like, we're doing that thing where it's like, what temperature is it there?
Yeah, it's definitely unseasonably warm and we're not super happy about it. Except I can't really, 3 months from now, I'll be remembering fondly the last days of summer. So.
Yeah, the light is beautiful.
Yeah.
It's just a little warm in the afternoons.
It is a little warm in the afternoons. A little warm to be wearing knitwear, so I don't know, maybe we'll change over the course of the episode, but yeah. I guess that leads well into what are we wearing?
Yeah, I would love to talk about this. This is the Sille Slipover by Petite Knit. Obviously, Petite Knit is probably, most people I think are probably familiar with her work, really prolific and elegant designer of knitting patterns, but this I think is our first Petite Knit store sample.
Well, we had a no frills.
Oh yeah,
back
we did
in the
have
day for a while. That was
true.
That was her first big hit several years ago, and was a bit of a tricky pattern to follow. We found a lot of customers came in with questions about it, and it was sort of a wake-up call for the different styles of writing between Scandinavian and North American pattern writing styles. I do think she's recognized how many English-speaking knitters she has, and her patterns are a little more detailed now, really clear.
And so we decided to go with this very Petite Knit color in Sandnes Garn Double Sunday called That Orange Feeling. So you can see it here. So Petite Knit actually did do like a collaboration with Sandnes Garn so that there's a bunch of colors in Sunday and Double Sunday that are kind of her signature. You can see it right there. So this is Double Sunday, which is a DK weight, and that's what we used for the Sille vest. It has this great texture in it, very subtle, but really beautiful. And, obviously today it's going to be 27 degrees. I'm wearing it as a tank. But I could absolutely I think how I would want to wear it is over a button-down shirt or even a t-shirt. Like you with a t-shirt the other day.
I threw it on over a white t-shirt the other day, which is like a very, very much the style right now, a sort of looser t-shirt, a baggier white t-shirt. I think it came about halfway down my arms, and it absolutely just made someone buy it. Like, I want to knit that based on this. And she had this white t-shirt on too, same style. So she put it on and it's like, it immediately pulls the outfit together. You get the styling. So there's tons of styling ways. I'm thinking over a turtleneck through the winter as well, all sorts. So, if you go to Lavallée, she's done it in a beige, which is also beautiful. We have some gorgeous neutrals. I'm not sure if this is the exact one she used, but it is also a Petite Knit color. This is 3821. It might be called something like almond, but they have lovely names, but they don't put the names on the labels. So I'm sort of going off my memory here. But you can see behind Steph all these gorgeous colors.
Yeah. So we have lots of in-stock options, and we also ordered lots of this color specifically because we know that generally when we do a pop color sample, people are like, I want that one. So
and she's used this color in other things for sure. Yeah. And then behind me is a restock of Ulysse. It would also be gorgeous in there. And then Sandnes Garn, again, alpaca, if you wanted a sort of drapier, floppier, comfy, cozy version. Warmer too. Yeah. The alpaca would be a really good choice. We'll link all those below. Yeah. So that's what I'm wearing. Do you want to shift around and show the back? I just really love the detail of the shoulders. She's done some really creative constructions with those. So yeah, I just find that a fantastic detail here, and it's really interesting to knit. I hadn't tried this construction, so I definitely want to make one for myself as well. Really subtle stitch pattern. Yeah,
cool.
It's great.
Well, with that out of the way, what are you wearing?
I am wearing, hot off the needles, I did the last tubular bind off on the cuff as we prepared for the podcast this morning. This is a new upcoming design, the warm-up cardigan. So I turned, oh, sorry for the chair scraping. I went back to the warm-up sweater that I released a couple of years ago, 2.5 years ago, 1.5 years ago. And I thought that could be a cardigan. I had been sort of mulling over for a while. It's been in my the back of my design brain to turn the warm-up into a cardigan for a while. What it needed was a real kickstart from the yarn to really inspire it. So this is an incredible fabric created by holding 3 strands together. So what really got me inspired for this, to finish designing the pattern and get it knitted up was the Make It Tweed. Now, we've talked about Make It Tweed before. You will recognize this one. This one is now called Original because there are 6 new colors. It's hard to hold them all. They're all fantastic. And I used this one pastel. But there's so much more depth to our Tweedy adventures now with all of these.
If you've been following the Make It Tweed adventures, is that first they came up with this one and it was called Make It Tweed. And then they came out with another one that had a dark base and they called that Make It Rainbow. And then they discontinued Make It Rainbow because they said that it bled, although I made some stuff with it and I never had that issue, but...
It sold really well. We never had that issue from a customer either.
Yeah, but they decided to stop making it. And then they decided, okay, we're gonna add all these colors to these Make It Tweed. So now this needed a color name. So they called this Rainbow, even though you're probably thinking of the other one that got discontinued. And then they called this one Classic, because it is a classic tweed in browns, but it makes for some communication issues.
They called this one Earthy.
If you're having any issues figuring out what color you want, look with the photographs.
Yeah.
Because that's, but on the sad side, like it looks like Make It Rainbow really is done. We were hoping that they'd figure it out and they'd relaunch it. But on the other hand, they have added these, and this one too, the classic, have darker bases. So if you're working with dark yarns and you want it to blend, you can use this.
Those do have the black base on them, yeah. But I just love to come back to the...
Yes, let's
get a little distracted from my point here. If you're not totally lost, back to the cardigan. I used this pastel color, which just has gorgeous, subtle tones to it. And I decided to grab one of these to sample first because I was really interested whether such a pale color would really do much in a yarn. We saw it and we were sort of like, will that show anything?
Yeah.
And it absolutely does. And I'm wearing this now just over a little tank top and I've steam blocked it and it's just unbelievably soft. So I held the Knitting for Olive Merino in Soft Rose with the Trinity Cashmere from Yarn Citizen.
And that's Pearl, right?
And this is color Pearl. So this is a bit of a colder, almost lilac. And this is a classic like blush blossom pink. And then this has pops of soft beige, peach, lilac, mint, pink, all running through with a lovely cream base. And they just come together so perfectly. I tried a few things with them together. I tried a sort of little shawl design or something, and I realized these the fabric they're creating is so cohesive. It's like the fascinating thing about knitting to me. One of the fascinating things is how we can just create our own yarns.
Yeah,
by bringing others together. Like there are no limits.
Well, and I know sometimes there's like a little bit of this feeling of like, oh, you know, holding yarns together is just a way to sell more yarn, or it's about making things more expensive, which I am very much like sensitive to. And one of the things we do a lot in store is help people switch from some kind of stranding thing to a single yarn based on the gauge and the fabric. And we're like, okay, you can use this DK and get a similar result. But as you say, those 3 yarns together are creating something that you couldn't substitute for. There is no yarn that has this particular construction, this kind of texture, and this kind of subtlety of color. So I think that like there are times, there's always a time and place for stranding and putting things together. And I think this is definitely one of them. And
that is why I went with where the yarn was taking me rather than trying to force this into whatever pattern might be hot right now.
Yeah.
And a few times I was trying to stripe it a little bit, and the yarn management of the knitting process was just so torturous that I wouldn't want to encourage that in a sample for anybody. It really just wanted to be stockinette, and it just became a fabric.
That's it.
Rather than a few yarns, rather than a bunch of yarns held together. So that's what I really wanted to focus on in turning it into such a simple garment. So I'm planning on using these buttons. It is a mother of pearl 20mm, and while the neckline is quite high, which I expressly designed on the warm-up, I wanted something that wasn't going to fall down the shoulders and show straps and things. I may not wear it all the time with the top button done up, but I like the placement of the second buttonhole Oh, thank you. I'm trying to find it because the button's not
there
to make it obvious. I find the placement of the second buttonhole really nice to frame a necklace or something.
It's like perfect.
Sometimes I find if I have a top button open, the second button is kind of low. So I was thinking about that with this placement. But at the same time, speaking of the sweater, this yarn combination would be gorgeous.
Yeah, in the original too, right? Like you could, if you're not a cardigan person, you don't have to do the cardigan, but this yarn combo could easily be sort of back formation onto the original sweater too.
Absolutely.
So this is in Drops Air.
Yeah, I have lots
That's
of
the
that
original.
right now.
And then this is one I wear a lot in the, when I come to the store and I'm like, I want a new outfit. This is our sort of like mariniere, sailor stripey version of it that we did in Camarose Snefnug.
Yeah.
Super fun.
And similarly, working backwards when we were talking about holding yarns together versus accessible options on price, this cardigan would be beautiful in Drops Air or Snefnug. Obviously, it's sort of an interchangeable pattern because it's pretty much based on the gauge and stitch counts of the sweater.
Yeah.
My next cast on, which I'll talk about a little bit because we don't have many whips. We're going to talk about whips, but we don't have many. And now I have an excuse to start something new. I want to do the warm-up cardigan in Let Lopi. I have a bag of this at home already. This is a galaxy color. It has so many gorgeous shoots of color coming through it, which is kind of going to a tweed yarn to get the effect that this would otherwise give you. So I'm going to do one strand of this, and then my plan is to embroider it with the stick and stitch.
Yeah, that would be pretty.
Yeah.
It's funny, we were noticing at the front of the store, sort of where we have a bunch of our things that just came in, it's like, we're obviously on a bit of a tweed adventure.
Yes.
We have more other yarns to show you too with this speckly color, but like realizing like we're really having a moment around these sort of flecks and speckles and tweeds.
Yeah,
it's really fun.
Stranding yarns is just this exciting feeling of I'm not only designing a garment, I'm designing a fabric, which is such a thrill. And all of us can do that. All of us can be fabric designers through the way we put yarn together. And we've done that from stash too. I've done sweaters where maybe I get a mohair, but I hold it all together with like every little leftover bit of sock yarn I have. There are so many ways that we do this without necessarily consciously thinking about it as knitters and crocheters. So
yeah, you don't have to be a super advanced knitter or crocheter to start designing your own fabric. That you can do from day one, and that's pretty cool.
Yeah. So in a nutshell, warm-up cardigan out now. So cozy. We've bundled this yarn together in kits just to make sure that you have the yardage you need. But
yeah, if you want to change colors or anything like that, let us know. We can help you figure out what goes together, because that's one thing when there's so many variables. If you're feeling like online, you know, you can't be sure, write to us and we will figure it out. We can send you some photos. If there's another Make It Tweed color that you'd love to try, if you want to pair that Make It Tweed with the Air or another yarn and want some suggestions, all to build up to this 16 stitch gauge, we're here to inspire, and we're excited to see what you come up with. Yeah. Well, actually, speaking of 16 stitch gauge, we have another finished object that we should show. Speaking of a tweed kit, this sweater, this is the, we're in our finished objects section. We went in. Segued in. This is the Hokkaido sweater, and this is a free pattern on Lavallée, and I cast this on sort of as a, not a selfish treat for myself, because I don't like ever calling knits for ourselves selfish, but a private project, shall we say. Like sometimes I knit with yarns that we don't have, with a view to just having a sweater for me and not necessarily focusing on how it's going to be in store. But this yarn, this Noro Silk Garden Solo in color 001 Omitama, was so entrancing to me, and this was a bucket list yarn. Like I think I have a bookmark for this yarn online on like 2 laptops ago. Someday I will make a sweater in this yarn. It's absolutely gorgeous. But like the story is you got this yarn and you were going to keep this for yourself, and then you're like, let me show you. Basically. So as soon as... Yes, that's a nice little summary of my rambling. They like brought this in and I was like, well, like, why won't... Let's just get that yarn. So actually I had some in my stash because I designed in it. Like years ago, I pitched a design to Knit Now magazine, which is a UK-based magazine, using Noro Kurion, which we carry, which is a color changing. But they sent me Ito, which is those those big 200-gram balls, and this as the contrast color.
This is what you used in the Valletta raglan?
Yeah, so it's called the Valletta raglan, and it was in the magazine. And so I got like a big old bag of this for free. For free. I worked for it. I designed a whole sweater. But there were a couple balls left over, so they've been sitting in my stash with not enough to do anything with them. So I'm excited because now we have lots more of it, and I can knit a sweater in it too. It is really a spectacular color.
It's so special. It's almost a neutral. If you see pictures of it online, the little screenshot that Nara gives that many of us use as the product photo, it does not do it justice. It looks cream, but there's so much depth in it, and I'm not even holding it double with anything, and it's got this gorgeous halo. Because
it's got a lot of mohair in it. It's a wool mohair silk blend. It's mostly silk and mohair with just 10% wool. But like, I think you just got to take our word for it. It's impossible to get this color to come across on a screen. It's like a little bit green, a little bit gray, a little bit beige. There's pink. It's just beautiful.
This sweater taught me, this is what I practice my helical knitting technique on.
Okay.
I did actually alternate throughout because even within the same lot, I noticed some differences between balls, but you really don't have to. I just wanted to practice helical knitting, which is a way of knitting in the round and alternating two yarns, either in 1x1 stripes, or if you want to alternate like two different dye lots, for example. And you basically, it works in the round. You knit up in the round to the last 3 stitches of your previous round, slip them, and start working with the next yarn.
Yeah, so it's like basically almost creating like the jog of where things change is always moving. So visually you don't see it. It's just you don't see a jog at all. So it's great for jogless stripes as well. But for blending two dye lots or, you know, different hand-dyed yarns, it's brilliant because it just fools your eye. You can't see where one begins and where one ends.
So I genuinely don't think you absolutely need to do that, but I wanted to practice the technique. This, I'll go back to talking a little bit about this pattern. It's free on Ravelry. I was intrigued by the yoke construction, and it is a really cool sort of somewhere between a raglan and a contiguous drop shoulder, but it is not a simple pattern to follow. There were a lot of places where I sort of just had to wing it from what I understand about what was on my needles and what I was seeing, and also other sweaters that I've knitted. I would not recommend it as a first sweater pattern, and I would definitely recommend reading the whole pattern through before you decide whether to take it on. Also, the sleeve instructions are just straight up incorrect. It says to pick up stitches under the arm and knit for however many inches. Like, okay, well, I'm not just going to make a 3-stitch ribbon.
Right,
coming
it
from
never says
coming from the underarm.
Rest, right.
It doesn't say to put the held stitches back on the needle, for example. Little oversights like that if you've knit sweaters before, you just know, of course I have to put all the stitches back on the needle and then pick up and join in the round like for any other sleeve. But it's little things like that.
But if you have, if you're new and you haven't knit before a sweater or not this style, that could really trip you up.
I do also think that at least for some of the sizes, I was talking with someone else who's knit this, if you did follow the decrease ratio for the sleeves, you'd end up, it would be several inches too long. It would be flopping off the end of your arm. It doesn't make sense with the row gauge, the decrease distribution. So I basically, we've talked about it.
You love to improvise a sleeve.
I never follow a sleeve pattern properly. So yes, all that to say, it's a great fit. Why don't I put it on? Should we do a snap?
It's really beautiful. Let's put it on. Someone should put it on.
I won't keep it on for long.
Because it's hot.
But I want to show you the fit.
Okay.
Okay. Ta-da! Again, oversized, sloppy, but fitting where it matters, you know?
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like I've knit a size too big for me because the fit just does sit really nicely around the shoulders. But at the same time, it gives this ease in the body that I really like.
And I think, I'm glad you put it on because also I feel like this is actually showing a little bit the yarn, how it behaves a little bit better.
Has such beautiful drape. It feels light. I am good with this level of feeling against my bare skin. It feels like anything where you've stranded with mohair against your skin. It feels like that.
Yeah.
So if you like that feeling, if you're tolerant to that feeling, you're gonna find this completely great as well.
Well, it's really interesting about the sleeve. It's a shame that, but you know what? it's free. So
yeah,
what's really nice about that means that you've got Naomi's review. You can go and look at it and you can read it all the way through and you can decide, you know, do you want to take it on? Do you want to use your skills to develop it? Because I think this finished object is really beautiful.
It is fantastic. And it's not, I didn't find that many places where it was fully incorrect in such a way that I had to rip back several inches to fix it again. It wasn't, it was sort of so sparsely written
that you're like doing stuff anyway. You're like filling in the blanks.
On high alert to like make sure that I was going correctly.
Right.
You definitely have to keep track of markers because sometimes you're increasing before that marker and then a while later you're increasing after that same marker. So it just sort of put me on high alert to be very aware of what I was doing, which was great because sometimes, conversely, I've been knitting raglan patterns that are well written and clear and basic, and I just merrily go along and then I realize, oops, I
forgot to read this change
because I was working on autopilot.
Yeah.
So if that gives a bit of a window into my thinking when I'm working through patterns. I definitely would recommend if you don't mind a puzzle and you don't mind focusing on your pattern and just taking it step by step and sort of thinking a little sort of geometrically around the instructions, it is a fantastic fit and so worthwhile.
But part of what led us into this is that if that's not your bag and you're not interested in that, but you like this yarn and the way it fits, this is the same gauge. So the warm-up sweater or the cardigan could also be a great match for this yarn so that you could get this beautiful look of this fabric without having to be a puzzle master. Which at the same time is, if I hold them side by side, is doing something very close. Yeah. Very similar in terms of that fabric we're talking about. The chunky silk thing. Yes. It's different. And there's something so unmistakably Noro about this, even though it's not a color changing yarn and even though it's not a wild blend of 8 fabrics, 8 fibers, it's still very Noro. So if you go back on our Instagram a few days at this point, you'll see I did a little collage of a bunch of other patterns in this gauge range that I would recommend for Noro, both sweaters and accessories. There's a beautiful cabled shawl that I put in there that I think would show off this beautifully. Well, I know you have a hat in progress. Yes, I held my leftovers with mohair in a hat. That's at home, I'll show it later. That worked out really nicely. That was a rib hat at 18 stitches because it is sort of a true worsted, but as a single ply, it has that flexibility. The petite knit used this in her terrazzo sweater. Yeah. I think she might have used the sock with mohair. Okay. But the gauge works. With the gauge would work with this. You really want to look for 16 and 17, I would say max. Like you don't want to go tighter than that. If this yarn, you're kind of going to strangle it for a garment. For a hat where you want, to keep the wind out. Yeah. Ooh, one more whip. I should probably put this one on too. Whip or faux? Faux. F-O. Finished object. Steph is sliding it over to me. Yeah. This, I actually finished this over the summer. I haven't done much with it because it is so warm and it really has not been the weather to wear it. But it's been on our mannequin in store and I am just so proud of it. This is the Seaton sweater, which I have shown as a whip. Yes. Yes, a couple times, yeah. A couple times. I finished it. This is a Seaton sweater by Marie Wallen. It is the cover star of her book, Aaron. And I knit this in our Bon Tricot Jolly DK, which is currently awaiting a restock. We've reordered the base, which is custom spun for us, so we have to do it in a really big batch, which we are looking to do at this point. Basically, last year we ordered about a year's worth based on sales. So that's been really interesting for us as we started the development of this new yarn. So we'll be getting loads more in about mid-October, and then I'll be dyeing it. So what we have online at the moment is pretty much what we're going to have for the next at least 4 to 6 weeks. But as you said, like there's enough on our shelves for you to make this sweater. Absolutely, because there's so many fun colors and it's so gorgeous for color work. So take a look and I'll put the colors that I used down below. It's a fantastic yarn for any of the patterns in this book. We've talked about this before, so I won't go fully back over it, but I'll link to the Lavallée
project pages for this book as well, so you can take a look more in depth at all the patterns.
Yeah, there's more than just this sweater that would work for this yarn. Like the 22 stitch gauge is sort of perfect. The colors are very nice and analogous. So
yeah,
if you get this book, you're going to be able to make more than one thing for
Absolutely, for sure. And I already have a bunch of things on my mind from that book. So I really love how this drop shoulder construction came out. You might have remembered it was going to be steeked. I'm quite pleased with my steek. I'm not super experienced with them, so I'm looking forward to improving my own manifestation of the technique. I did a crochet reinforcement, and it's holding okay. I might end up needing to mend it because I don't think I was quite as careful as I should have been. I think I was just really keen to finish it.
I'll bring you my felting needles.
Yes, that's a good idea.
So yeah, if you have ever been in the situation that Naomi's in here, where she has done everything right with this steek, but it was maybe cut a little close to, like, I would have probably done the reinforcement.
I did a crochet reinforcement.
I might have done it and then left a couple of stitches between.
I was following her guideline where basically you crochet in this book. Everyone will write the different instructions for steeks. To recap, steeking is when you cut your knitting to open this, in this case, the armhole, because I had knitted in the round. Her instructions have you work crochet chains 1 stitch apart and then cut up between the crochet chains. So I don't actually have any loose edges. The edges are all contained by the chain. What
I want to say is I'll bring you my felting needles, and you kind of poke at the places where you're worried that it's gonna unravel, and you can like basically rush the felting process, which what you're waiting for. You're also, this has been in the store. It hasn't been worn as much. When you start wearing it, I think it will felt and it'll be fine.
It's more that the inside is messy, but you can't tell from the outside.
Yeah.
Well, I'm really pleased with myself. I didn't mess up my entire sweater.
No, it looks amazing. Like, you're way underplaying it. This is incredible. This is beautiful.
Thank you. I'm so excited to wear it when it gets cooler. I'm really hoping it'll be cool enough at Rhinebeck to wear it.
That would be nice.
Because it's
a showstopper.
It's double layered DK. It's warm.
Yeah. And but this is such a Rhinebeck sweater.
It really is. Whew. Okay, quick change because actually
a little warm.
No, it was so warm and cozy, and we don't have the AC on in here. So back to the light breathable layer, and I want to see OFO.
Okay, so I'm so excited to show this. I don't think I've been so proud of something I made in so many years. So I'm gonna style it on first. Okay, so on the last episode, I think I had like 3 flowers of this done, and I was like, it's a slow burn, and now here it is. It's all finished. So this is my kind of first crochet project. It's called Crojoretro. And the reason I'm saying that so slowly is the number of times that I searched for it on Ravelry and didn't find it because I was like adding spaces or taking spaces away. Anyway, we will have it properly linked below. And it's by Sue Maton, and she goes by The Mercerie, and is based in the UK. And Sue has a really interesting model of the way that she's managing her patterns, where like basically they're done as classes. So, this one is free when you sign up for her newsletter. So I think that's a really great way to showcase what she has to offer. So to make this, I never crocheted anything other than like...
You need single crochet and double crochet.
Yeah,
you knew a little few stitches. You knew how to pull the yarn through with
I knew what the motion was, but I didn't know what the name of any of the stitches were other than single, like a chain. And I had never done any kind of project at all. So every single section of this project, which is originally a blanket. So I've modified it to make it into a scarf, but originally it's a blanket. Every single thing has a video and a PDF with both written instructions and a chart. So what I found really fun is that I managed to learn all of those things together. So I had a video so I could watch visually. And then once I had that, I could switch over to the PDF that had both written instructions and a chart. And I found myself switching back and forth between those until I got comfortable enough with the chart that as I moved on, I was more and more reading the charts. Well, I had so much fun. So basically what I did is I took the motifs in Sue's pattern here. There's this flower, and then there's these sort of groups of leaves, and there's 2 flowers for each leaf, and there are these strips, and then if you were gonna do the whole thing, you would just keep joining strips, but I just did 2. But it is designed in such a way that there's lots of gappy little bits. And so she has you do these sort of daisies and flowers to fill it in.
Really cool.
So what was fun is I just demolished my DK stash.
Yeah.
So my main color here is the Jody Long, which is, you'll see here behind us. It's this sort of tweedy DK. It's like very similar to Rowan felted tweed. So that's something that Sue uses a lot in her pattern. So I was like, perfect. I'll use that. And this, one of the greens is that as well. There's a lot of Ulysse, which, you know, we've used for lots of different samples in our store. So there was lots of colors left over.
There's some Jolly.
So there's definitely some
It's
Jolly.
a fun game. I'm like, ooh, Ulysse Quartz, Jolly Miami Pink.
Yeah. And then there's also little bits from like precious things that I have made things with over the years, like
little hand-dyed bits.
Yeah.
Precious scraps.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like this is for sure Kindred Red, Sulphur Springs Eternal, which is like her amazing acid green. And I know there's some Tanis fiber arts in here somewhere. And so like, there's just basically little memories from all these other projects all over it, and allowed me to use some of my wild colors where I kept the rest of it a little bit chill. Anyways, I freaking love it.
It's so good. The more I look at it, the more I fall in love. Yeah.
And so what I wanted to say about Sue's sort of method, or the Mercerie, I should use her business name, is that this as like a taster of what she has to offer, I think is really engaging and smart, and it convinced me. So I'm on this newsletter because that's how I got this. And then I get this email, oh, I'm launching this new pattern called Tessellation Nation, which is a huge blanket full of flowers, also crochet. And, you know, you have to get on a waiting list, and then it's here, you can sign up. And it's expensive. It's several $100s. And it's a class, and it launches in January, and it's like videos like this. And I think it is going to be worth every penny, because of doing this, I see now what she's doing, what she's offering, the level of detail, the fact that I'm basically going to be able to, I'm going to get a private lesson in a way, how to do all these stitches, how to choose my colors, how to put it all together. I do feel like there's something about her work that is so different than other designers. I think her approach is amazing. And she's teaching a class here on the crochet flowers, which I think is almost sold out. There's maybe
I think
as of right now, there's 2 spots left.
Yeah.
So I'm also very excited to gush at her in person when she comes.
So not only are you learning how to put those stitches that you already know together into this incredible structural work of art, it's also the color placement is a big part of her classes too. So I know that you're really,
I'm super excited
about that kind of thing.
And I think it's interesting to come at it from crochet, right? It's in a completely different way of the way that the yarn moves through the piece, how you place it. It's much more painterly, I think. So it feels improvisational in a way that knitting doesn't, at least not at the moment to me. But what's interesting is I've gotten really interested in modular knitting from doing this, where I'm like, ooh, how can I bring this sort of sense of a little bit at a time, work as I go, add it on to knitting. So I'm playing around with that idea. Anyways, I think this is going to be my Rhinebeck project, and then that way I can just wear like a cute jacket, and if I'm hot I can take it off.
Really smart Rhinebeck project.
It's not so
show-stopping shawl.
Like basically it's a
scarf.
It's a shawl scarf thing, whatever, but like I can just wear it with whatever's weather appropriate.
Yes, totally. I realize I also have a crochet whip.
Amazing.
As I said, I'm excited to cast on another warm-up cardigan because I love any excuse to cast on something new, but I also have going, which I love to sort of have a little bit more in the background, a crochet whip, which are currently granny squares. And I was inspired to do these with the leftovers from my Seton sweater. And this is going to be the Fleetwood from Tanis Fiber Arts, which she's doing such cute stuff right now with mixing crochet and knit in the same garment, which I just love. So the concept is like really 70s, that's why she called it Fleetwood.
Yeah.
But it's basically a panel of 9 crochet squares, and then these are in DK, and then the rest of the body is knit in worsted. So I already have my color picked out. I think Gilead is going to be a really good pair with the texture of Jolly DK. So these are the colors that I'm using: dark olive, pink garnet, pineapple, sandcastle, and Arctic blue.
I love that this is the color you've chosen. This is caramel in Gilead. and it's very 70s. Like I definitely can feel like I want to go to my avocado fridge and pull out something in aspic. Yes. It's very good. I love it. Very authentic.
Like, now I want to do more than just 9 squares.
You want to do in the back too, maybe?
I'm not going to do a whole full panel in the back, but I was thinking of just making some more squares and using the same techniques that Tanis outlines to join the knitting and crochet together. I think I'm going to have a patch like on my lower arm. Cool. On my elbow, maybe. Ooh. And just like randomly somewhere on the back.
I love that.
Maybe back shoulder and back lower waist.
That sounds
like,
amazing.
Just sort of dot them around a little bit.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah.
I would love to see that. Yeah, I'm excited to see how that comes together. That's great. So I don't have a whip to show today. I have some things I'm playing around with. I always do, but I'm kind of excited to come up with something to cast on. Like this arriving has definitely got me thinking about maybe the hat that you're designing, that maybe I'll make myself one of those, or I don't know. I'm in that exciting kind of mode where I'm like, I don't know what's next.
Well, knowing you, you'll find.
I'm sure by the time like we'll leave filming this and I'll go home, and the next time I see you, I'll have something on my needles. So yeah. What else? Oh, we have some new stuff, but we have one more store sample we wanted to show.
Yes. Yes. Ah, yes. So we made the chickens.
We fell for the chickens hard.
Fell hard for the chickens. They don't even have names yet. Maybe you could help us out. Give them names. I'm very tempted by Henrietta, but I know that there are a lot of this chicken out there called Henrietta. I could just sit like this for the rest of the podcast.
There's something about them.
Something about it.
So this is
the emotional support chicken.
Which you've probably seen. If you're watching our knitting podcast, it means you're plugged into the world of knitting. You are probably aware of this pattern. It just took off. There's something very engaging about this particular chicken. Like there's a bazillion knit toys out there, but this pattern just has personality. And there's especially this is the original size.
Yes, I knit this in Gilead in worsted weight. Pretty much the gauge recommended, or at least the needle size recommended in the pattern. But Amalia knit this one with sock yarn. Great way to use up minis and leftovers. We both followed the striping of the pattern. But there are so many ways to customize it, and it just naturally came out smaller like this. There's even a micro one. Somebody gave a lot of detailed notes on their Ravelry project page about making like a bag charm keychain sized one. But this is just a great...
There's something very huggable about it. Like it is emotionally supportive, because there's lots of knitted toys that like, I'm like, okay, it's adorable, but it's not for hugging. But this one wants, like you want to hug it. I don't know. It's something about the proportion of it. It is just really lovable. But so the idea to how this got started is that we were launching our classes for the fall, and one of our regulars who comes in all the time, we were asked about classes, and I mentioned what we were playing, and she's like, oh, I've taken all of those before. You know what you guys should do is the emotional support chicken, because it's so fun and there's so many techniques. So I mentioned it to Naomi, and she's like, huh, interesting.
I knit it through to see if it was good class material. It absolutely is. I ended up needing to build a spreadsheet checklist for myself to make sure that I got all of the short version.
Yeah, all the different.
Amalia and I both, again, like I was saying about being on autopilot when a pattern is well written, she and I both ended up
making the same mistake, right?
Same mistake in the same place. And when I came to put the chicken together, I realized one side was a double D and the other side was an A. In the chicken breast shaping section. But I also, when I did the bottom section, I knitted it on as I went, whereas the pattern has it
sewn on
knit
later.
Separately and then seam it. So
yeah, like once you've done it once, it gives you all these options of ways you could customize it and change it.
Totally.
So there is a class. Naomi's teaching a class on it. So if you're local to us, you could sign up.
Yeah, it's in person. It is not online.
Yeah, great pattern. Really fun and fun techniques.
Bunch of new stuff in store. Let's make some more.
Yeah. A lot of book-related content.
Should we do our book stuff? You may have been aware of this release recently. We still have a bunch in stock. This is the Knitting Bag of Tricks workbook. This is a new release from Lyons, who obviously, of course, did the incredible craft-changing Knitting Bag of Tricks book a few years ago at this point, right?
Just so you know, you can't have this. It's mine.
Yeah.
I brought it for the podcast.
And so the workbook goes along with this book. You may have the book already. If you don't, this is a perfect chance to pick them up together. I'm so impressed with this. I didn't quite know what to expect. It's ring bound. It really feels like you want to write in it, like you want to dive in and complete these exercises. It's full of interactive little elements. It has some gorgeous stickers at the back.
And which are, all the illustrations are by Franklin Habit, who's sort of a noted knitter illustrator. It's a really great collab.
Yeah, really fun. There's a bunch of pages for notes at the back.
You know what it reminds me of? Like, I have a kid in 4th grade and she has like little workbooks to help her with stuff. And it reminds me of that, like that really fun sort of like, gotta put my little sticker on my completed project.
I mean, they're like Bind Off Boss, Gauge Star, Yarn Adventurer, Captain Cast On. It's like, I want to be Captain Cast On. I'm always Captain Cast On.
You are Captain Cast On. We should get you a hat that says that. So
no, I just need to wear the sticker. It feels like something I would pick up at the Scholastic Book Fair. It's got like nostalgia
it's totally the Scholastic Book Fair for adult knitters. But I would also say that I keep this book actually next to my bed. I'm that kind of nerd because I'll pick it up and just read a little bit of it at any time. And what I always think is, I should be doing this with needles in my hands because you want to try out what she's explaining. And I think what this workbook does is basically make that so obvious that that's the approach. So, you know, you do need this for this to make sense. This is an accompanying piece. You wouldn't get a ton out of this without this book.
Yeah.
So what it is, like you read through the section here and then you turn to the appropriate part in the workbook and you do the exercises. So what are the exercises?
I was just about to ask.
Swatching! Everyone's favorite thing to do. So if you recognize yourself as that Scholastic Book Fair person, the person who loves to put a sticker, who wants to measure their swatch, you should go for this. It makes it super fun. If you feel reluctant, you should also think about it because I do think...
I think if you feel reluctant...
You are the person.
Even more, you should try it because it's the #1 question we get when people come in with questions. It's like, how do I learn this? How do I get better? How do I fix mistakes? And what we have to say, which not everybody wants to hear, is just practice. You got to make the mistakes and fix them, and this will show you how to do that.
Like I was saying to someone the other day, like, if you ever learned music, like you have to play scales. You can't just play the Beethoven. Like you have to play your scales if you want to do that. There's an element of like, yes, you could just knit sweaters and learn all of this on that, but you're going to have some really messy sweaters. So if you don't like that,
or just like you'd have to rip back, or you have to decide whether it's worth it to rip back or whether you can live with the mistake, and all those sorts of things that we have all gone through in our own knitting and still go through in our own knitting. This can just help you skip that step.
Yeah, I think that's it. It's like, but you have to understand by, you know, like you got to do the work. You're going to have to pick up your needles and you're going to have to make swatches and you're going to have to make the observations that Patty's asking you to make about the swatches. What you get from doing that is the ability to read your knitting and understand how it's made. So it won't be about like, how do I pick up a drop stitch? Yeah. You will know how to pick up a drop stitch because you'll understand what a drop stitch is. We're giving this a 5-star review is basically what we're saying. We love it and we appreciate that Patty is also probably making our lives as LYS owners easier by giving us a tool that we can actually give to people and say, this is what will make your knitting.
Thank you, Patty.
So those are both in stock. More books. I want to talk about this one.
Yes.
So we met Julia Madill, the author of this book, at Knit City, Toronto. She was walking around the floor and was so stylish, and she just stood out a mile. So I think I caught her eye, and she walked over and introduced herself. And I'm sure it was one of those moments of thinking that maybe we knew each other. Right, but I just couldn't stop looking at her because she was wearing this fabulous outfit. Anyway. So it turns out she is a designer of crochet and knitting, but particularly known for her crochet work. And she's got this new book out called Every Way with Granny Crochet. And what this is basically sort of like other shapes that you can make besides just the square. Although the square is in the book, but then it goes on to like, you can see here like the rainbow, stars, flowers, hexagons, all these different shapes.
Ooh, with charts too.
And so written and charts, triangles, and all kinds of different stuff. And the really fun thing is also, not only do we have Julia's book, Julia is coming and doing a class on this subject with us as well. So if you're local to us, you can register for the class.
At the end,
it's going to be so much fun.
She has...
Love this.
This is incredible. This is the sampler. If you've worked through everything in the book, she's got instructions for how to place everything together and you know, the gauge and everything to get it into this absolutely incredible quilt that is just
so modern and fresh. It looks, but also like old fashioned. I don't know. It's beautiful.
Yeah, I'm just so inspired by that.
Julia picture in here.
Is there a picture of her? Author picture?
Oops. Yeah, there is. Like, yeah. Look at Julia.
Here she is. Like, how fun is that?
Yeah,
I want to hang out for 3 hours on a Sunday afternoon with her making funky shaped granny squares. I'm so excited. Ooh,
oh, that's so amazing.
Spiral. Yes, it's a fantastic book. It's so much fun. It's like wherever you are with crochet, right at the beginning,
you there. Yeah.
You've been doing it for ages. There's just something there's a lot of fresh stuff in this, and I think it would be so much fun for kids and for teens getting into crochet as well. So much that you can do with this type of crochet construction. Yeah,
so we're very excited that we got to meet Julia, and that's why you go to events like this too. It's like just the opportunity to meet people, and you never know. We didn't know her work, and I'm like, I can't believe we didn't know it. So there you go. We have this in stock and the class. And then this is a little bit more like random, but every now and again, we get a whole bunch of vintage magazines, often some interweave, but it seems like Vogue knitting in particular is something that we often get. So but we've had to look through them to make sure that they're in good condition and that they're all readable. So it seems that Vogue Knitting isn't publishing anymore, although I don't think there's been an official statement from them. But there hasn't been a new issue in a long time. And so at this point, if you want Vogue Knitting, the only way is vintage.
And they're really great. Like most of what we have right now is like mid to late 90s and 2000s, which is just really fun stuff and a bunch of styles that are coming back around. And then the articles are always so interesting. Like this was
they're really timeless, right? Like here, in this one, there's a huge article about Elizabeth Zimmerman. There's some articles by Meg Swanson, articles by Kate Fassett. Like it's major players who are writing stuff. Like some of the articles in here, I'm like, I can't believe that this was available in a knitting magazine you could buy at the grocery store. And here's like a complete description of short rows and how to use them and 7 different ways to knit them. You know, written by Meg Swanson. And I got that at the grocery store while I was checking out with my food. So once upon a time. Anyway, so we have our copies. We have about, I don't know, 6 bundles of those. The one thing I will say is that the size inclusivity sort of at the time that these were published is not what it is today. Although I will say VK always did have sort of like their VK plus patterns. Each issue always has a couple of things that were graded more widely, but it's definitely before you fall in love. Like how we've got them online is like it's the photograph, so that you can compare it, look on Ravelry, see what's in there. What
patterns are included,
and like what their sizing range was.
But part of the exciting things about these older magazines is just how much rigor was dedicated to the articles, to the technique descriptions. They were the resource before any of this was on the internet. So even if you never knit any of the patterns, there's a lot of really cool stuff. Zoom in on the covers and see what's inside, and that's almost it. We got a couple of restocks and
restocks,
yarns.
And then
well, we've talked a lot about the restocked yarns so far. Ulysse Durarum Natura, we got a bunch more in of Ulysse and Gilead, which we've mentioned.
But you were saying like some of those colors in Gilead will not be coming back until 2025. So it's fall, we're restocking, we're bringing things in.
We've got new sock yarns.
We do have new sock yarn.
I grabbed a couple because we love shaking it up every time we get sock yarn, because we have a lot of sock knitters who try something and then they don't want to knit the same socks over and over again. So we bring in new colors. So this is a Comfort Wolle, Sockenwolle, made in Italy for a German company. Great self-striping. Every label has a little picture of what it's going to be like. $15.50. I think that's a fantastic price these days for commercial sock yarn self-striping. You're gonna get a really fun effect, effortless, and it feels great.
Yeah,
it's a classic, hard-wearing, 75% wool, 25% nylon. Your absolute workhorse sock yarn. And I have also been re-dyeing oops, excuse me. While waiting for the jolly, I can go back to some stock I still have of Happy 4-ply. Here and there, I'm filling in the colors. I just love how the colors come through on this British blend base. So this is a natural color. Similarly to Jolly, it is not a crew, so the colors get a lot of depth once dyed upon it. And I love this for garments as well. It just has a little more softness and character to it than the commercial sock yarns that we were just talking about. So it's great, so hard wearing for socks, but feels nice and woolly and natural enough for garments as well. I made the Stria cardigan by Andrea Mowry in it, and I held it double with mohair we've held it double with mohair for a gingerbread sweater, and that was a great combination. So we've got mohairs as well. Yeah, really good yardage on that, 437 yards in 100 grams. Exmoor Blueface, Corriedales, Wrought Balls, and 10% nylon. So just having that little bit less nylon in it just gives it a bit more of that woolly natural feel for next to skin, shawls, sweaters, that sort of thing. And then I guess the last one we haven't mentioned but that you pulled out was Stellaris, because we're kind of getting to the time when we're thinking about our festive knits. We've restocked these fun sparkles in a bunch of colors.
So this is like very much like a thread weight, glittery yarn that's very soft. One of the reasons we like it is that sometimes adding metallics into your fabrics, like you really feel it.
Crunchy.
Yeah. So what we like about this is that it really doesn't, it doesn't seem to add that sort of itchy factor. It's very smooth. Especially when you add it with, we love surrounding these with fluffy yarns, like adding it in with the mohair or with Snefnug or air or those blown yarns or single plies. It really kind of melts it together. Again, like we were talking about, you're making a fabric rather than holding two together. And these are super generous. And these are like 680. Hang on. I need my
560 meters, so that's about 600 yards.
Yeah. So, you know, I did a sweater in it, the Staple by Park and Knit. Yeah. And by just leaving it out of the ribbing, I managed to do my entire sweater with one. So, you know, depending on your yardage, you might be able to like fudge it a little bit and get by with one.
Yeah, and it's so fun for gifts as well. You could do a couple hat and mitten sets with just one. Really show-stopping gift.
We mostly went for like the classic golds and silvers, but we do have this amazing blue.
Analia used that in a sweater, and it's incredible. I think she held it with a black yarn, or did she hold it with a navy yarn?
I think it's navy.
There's this gorgeous white, which is so tinsely.
And then like, there's a very subtle black that's like basically just gonna add some sparkle, and then there's one that's like a black and gold.
Yeah. This is something brand new I'm so excited about.
So I also like to sew and occasionally get very into it, and I decided that I would make up some bags for the shop, because we haven't had a project bag sort of in this shape or size for a while.
It's been a while. This boxy bag style, which is just so versatile and convenient.
So these are 100% merino wool felt, and with leather straps. And really simple, like the idea that there's no pockets, there's no extras. It's really just for
your project.
It's sweater size, I would say, or most of a sweater size. Yeah. But the idea with this is that you can knit from it. You know, that you can carry it and you can knit with it, hanging from your arm. So
as an idea, this was about a 450 gram sweater. I think I used about 9 balls? 8 balls, 9 balls, the Hokkaido sweater, and it's fitting and it's zipping up. So if that were my project, I could have it in here, even like right at the end with like just, you know, my 1 ball left and my needles, and it's fitting. Yeah. And it's not stuffed.
I just put 3 skeins of the Happy in here.
Nice.
So yeah,
so like it's really, because it's 300-400 gram project. You could absolutely
big shawl, with a sweater. That's the idea, is that it's like a useful size, because that's, like I said, one we haven't had for a while. Yeah. So I'm just like, how I'm going to deal with these is I will add what I have, and I will make them when I feel moved to make them. I don't want to get into a situation where I'm like, oh no, I have to go home and sew for a week because everybody wants, you know, the red panda color. it really will be like what's in stock is what's in stock.
And I'm just so impressed. Like basically on Thursday you said to me like, I want to be sewing, I want to be making something, because you're such a product designer at heart too, right? And I'm thrilled that you found this outlet, and then wait, like 2 days later you come back with 5 of these and they're gorgeous.
I have made that. That's a pattern I've made before.
Yes, I know.
Do you remember years ago we did the Christmas market in the atelier?
Yes, yeah.
So I had a bunch of, so many, like early in Naomi and I's friendship, Espace Tricot, we didn't own it yet. We just both worked here.
Yeah.
Had like a Christmas market and invited any of the staff that made things to kind of have their stuff. So I had these bags and I had my clock kits.
That's right,
I wrote a pattern called the Yoga clock, which is like, anyway, it's a functional clock. Go look it up. And I had a bunch of these.
Yeah.
So, you know, I've been making them on and off forever, but I've definitely gotten better, faster, sort of figured out my favorite way to deal with them.
That's fantastic. We're launching with 3 colors, I guess.
3 colors. I have 5 bags right now. I'm going to do some more, you know, probably even before this podcast goes out, I'll have some more. But it's somewhat limited colors because, as I say, it's 100% merino felt that isn't the easiest to find. So when I can grab it up, I do.
Yeah. It feels fantastic. It is so soft, and I love how you can already see while they're boxy and they'll hold their shape with something inside them. They're also that great sort of squish it into your other bag and go type.
There's no interfacing in these. Like they're really meant to be like this is a fabric that has enough body to hold its shape without needing interfacing, which is nice.
This one in particular feels fantastic.
Yeah, so that one's a little softer.
A little softer, a little thinner.
Yeah. I think it's the way that it's treated.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, really had a lot of fun with those.
Get them while they're hot. The supply will always be limited.
Supplies limited.
Amazing. And then this is leather.
Yeah,
obviously
100% leather. And I tried to match the colors. Like I'm working on some gray ones right now, so that has like a gray charcoal leather as well.
Cool.
But I've got a hot pink on the roots too. Yeah.
Exciting.
Cool.
Well done, you.
Thank you. I mean, I promise I will knit as well. I won't just sew bags all the time.
But this is sort of your whip.
To not have a whip today. I mean, I'm a little embarrassed. How could I come without a whip?
I'm sure that'll change.
Yeah, I know.
Before too long.
Yeah.
Well, wow, what a jam-packed episode. We just talked and talked and talked.
I haven't done it in a while.
Yeah.
We need to catch up on so many things, but it was super fun. I really had a great time. I hope you guys enjoyed the episode. We are excited about Rhinebeck. That'll probably be our next. Will be after that.
Yes, if we don't manage one before, we'll do right after. If you're going to the New York Sheep and Wool Festival, we'd love to say hi. We love it when you come up and tap us on the shoulder or yell at us across a room or whatever it takes. We love to meet you. Always, it's always the highlight of the festivals for us.
We should mention also that we are going to be at Cakepalooza, which is the sort of pre-Rhinebeck event in Saugerties. And we are there with Robin from Yarn Birds, which is an amazing knitting truck, yarn truck. So we will be there with yarn and with samples, and we'll be hanging out all day. So please come and visit. We'll have our book,
we'll have all the book samples, and we'll have tons of other samples from our yarns. I'm going to have this eaten even if I can't wear it. And then on Saturday, we're going to be at Merritt Bookstore.
Yes, so we're signing books at the Merritt Bookstore. Sort of booth inside one of the barns
at Rhinebeck at the Sheep and Wool Festival proper. I think we're there in the morning. I forget our exact time slot. I think it's 10 a.m. We'll post all about this on our Instagram and newsletter in the lead up to Rhinebeck as well. Yeah, but we're really excited to go. It's always so much fun, and you know, meeting other knitters and crocheters and crafters is the best part. So super excited for that. And until next time then, happy knitting, happy knitting, bon tricot. I hope you're digging into some really cozy autumnal projects wherever you are, and or I guess springtime projects if you are in the Antipodes, south of the equator. Yeah. And wherever you are, I wish you happy crafting, and until next time, bye.